What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Built Different with Tucker Speed. On this episode, I was joined by Charlie Condit. He's a racer, BRL, super hooligan racer. Ran the Pro Series for a full year with pretty decent success. He's got some great stories. He's a great human being and very spiritual and just really a good dude. We really had a good conversation. He's got a lot to say. I guarantee we have him on again in the future. But yeah, I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one. Before we get started, remember this podcast is brought to you by tuckerspeed.com, your one-stop shop for all of your performance-related parts for your Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Please, before we get started, give us a follow, leave us a 5-star review, give it a listen. I think you're going to like it.
Making power by day, making friends at night. Built different. Tucker Speed. Hell yeah, brother.
All right, cool. We're rolling. We are joined today by Charlie Condit.
Yes, sir.
You like Charlie or Charles?
So I was born a Charles, but when I
You
kind
don't
of
look like a Charles.
I went Charlie probably back in like 2020, and I just started kind of not caring as much. And
Yeah.
No Chuck?
my family calls me Chuck.
Okay.
It's just like direct family, pretty much.
Yeah, I don't want that. I want to call you what your friends call you.
I don't have very many friends, but
We'll be your friends.
Okay, so, but just, I roll with Charlie.
All right.
So,
Yeah, I like
Charlie Davidson was that was my racing name. Like, it's like Frankie Garcia and Eric Stahl were just like, you're Charlie Davidson, man. And I'm like, I'm going to keep rolling with that. Like,
So yeah, cool, man. Appreciate you coming on. I got Jo, our co-host, on here today. You guys have already been.
we've already done a full show.
Yeah, you guys you already had a deep dive for 30 minutes.
I mean, you were with Tony Christensen. No offense, Tony. And then we were like, dude, he ain't going to be here for an hour at least.
Yeah. So, but cool, man. You were traveling through. You were just kind of like on a 2-week kind of driving around the country.
Yeah.
And it was cool that you were able to stop in, and I want to dive into racing. We got a lot of talk about racing, things we've done, the racing that we've done, our thoughts on it, and where we think it's going.
Yeah.
I really like to know like how the common theme here on these podcasts are, how did you get into motorcycling? When did you get into it? How did you get into it? Did you do it as a kid? Did you pick it up as an adult? Like what influenced you? So I want to hear all that. And then, we can just talk about whatever, man. Like, so, what do you want to jump in at?
I could start with the whole motorcycle thing.
Yeah, let's just start there.
On my dad's side of the family, my grandpa used to ride Indians. He came back from World War II, and there's a picture of him. And I lost, maybe it's like I don't know. There's some generational thing where like swagger, it's not just every generation, because I didn't get what my grandpa had. Yeah. Because there's this picture of him. He's got like the Snoopy helmet on, and he's just looking all tough, leaning on his Indian. I tried to recreate that picture, and I just look like
Pee Wee Herman or something.
Like if Pee Wee Herman started an emo band. And he was like, yeah. So it was kind of like that sort of a vibe.
I'm not trying to offend you this early in the podcast.
Oh, no, just get right on it. It's going to happen. But my uncle, my aunt, and my dad all rode Hondas, like old CBs. My aunt had this old, it was a CB 175, which I recently inherited. And she passed away, but I got the bike. And when I was a kid, I was like young. I'm like, someday I'm going to ride that bike. And and just seeing that bike, because nobody was actually riding when I was alive. But I saw the pictures, I heard the stories, and the bike was there. And another weird thing, I can vividly remember the first time that a Harley Davidson stood out to me. I was like 4 years old. We had gotten rear-ended. We're driving like one of the old station wagons. I was probably staring at the car that hit me because I think I was in the back seat facing backwards, like I used to. Yeah, I was born in 1984, 40 years old. So, and we're waiting on the police to show up, and I hear this sound, and it's like near an intersection. but I just hear this sound, and I can vividly remember just like seeing it. I'm like, what is that? And then this like green softail just goes like, running through the intersection, and it just did something to me. And I had this little plastic motorcycle toy that I got from my grandparents, and like I'd seen that bike and I had that toy, and then I started getting Lego sets, and it would come with like the little motorcycles, and all I did was just roll those little motorcycles around. And a little bit of dirt bike. I say a little bit, like I rode PW80, probably, automatic, I think 3-speed or something, like didn't have a clutch or anything, but I think I rode that maybe 7 times as a kid, but I just jumped right on, just loved it. Every time I was on a bike, and this was years before I even got on that dirt bike, I mean, I would get onto a pedal bike. I'm like, now when I'm old enough to ride a motorcycle, I'm going to lean like this, and it's going to be like this, and this will be like this. And like, I just always was obsessed with 2 wheels. And then I was in college, and my buddy Lucas Pick, he's like, hey, you like bikes, right? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm kind of a biker. I used to have this little plastic motorcycle. It's pretty cool. And so he's like, well, I got this old Kawasaki. Do you want to try riding it? And being an old guy, I had a manual car, so I'd never done a clutch before on a motorcycle, but I understood throttle clutch control. So I jumped on the bike, stalled it, and then I'm like, okay, a little more throttle, a little easier on the clutch, let this sucker out. And I just started ripping and like rip through the gears. Like it's like I was born to sit on 2 wheels and just rip on a motorcycle. That was in college? That was in college.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was like 19, 20, and then 2 weeks later, I found a Honda CB400T Hawk for $450. Such a good first bike for me. Like I restored it. I had this painters, if they would watch the Bondo correction that I did. I mean, this was like a dent like the size of my fist. I'm like, and I literally did the Bondo in my basement. Like it was like in my bathroom, because like the house I was in, I had like a bedroom downstairs. I was the only boy, and I had my own little bathroom. I had the window cracked. It's the middle of winter. I'm like, I can't do it out in the garage. It's way too cold. So I'm in the house, high as a freaking kite. I mean, just like God. And I'm like, I'm just gonna keep slapping this stuff on here and blip, blip, blip. And I painted the thing, rattle can, and restored it and did all this stuff. And that was the start of me riding. And I rode that, my brother-in-law at the time, he and I rode that bike. We took shifts, but we rode it from Chicago, north of Chicago, where I was living with my family, and I just graduated. And we rode that thing from there out to Syracuse, New York. This thing, I think it was a 5-speed. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember. But this bike, it's a 400cc. This thing is not powerful. This thing
not
is
made for the interstate.
It's not made for the interstate. Like this thing's like made to like go down your driveway and like get your mail. And we've got this thing just pinned out trying to do 70, 75. And there was one point where it's pouring rain. I get pulled over because every time it was so light, I'd go by a stinking semi, and that draft, this bike would go, whoa, and I'm like, whoa. And I got pulled over by a state trooper, and he's just come stomping up, and I'm like, yes, sir. Boy, what are you trying to do out here? I'm about to see you as a big greasy spot on the highway. And I'm like, well, what? He's like, I've almost watched your bike come out from under you 6 times in the last mile and a half. And I'm like, is it not supposed to do that when you're on the highway? And so then from there, got a Harley, 1980 Ironhead Sportster. Thought it was just the coolest bike ever.
It's Tony's favorite.
Man. And then ended up on a Dyna, and then ended up, man, and I almost built a really cool bike. But
you're a Dyna, bro.
Oh, but not.
Okay, we're getting into this right now.
I threw apes. I went the ape route. I aped it out. So this was back in like 2000, maybe 2012. Probably when I built that bike. I put apes on it and I painted it. But Yeah. So, and then from there, a bunch of other things happened with bikes, but I had a back injury that kept me off bikes for about 6.5 years.
Oh, okay.
Which at some point I'll probably have to go to the bathroom 40 times in this podcast because I have nerve damage. I was a diesel mechanic.
Okay.
And I just wasn't doing anything crazy, but just bulged a disc. And, but yeah, I mean, I kept trying to ride, and I mean, it didn't matter what bump I hit. I mean, it's just like, it was bad. And finally got back on a bike, and so that was probably around 2019, 2020 is when I got back on a bike. And then I'm going to try and get this. I talk a lot, and I'll just keep going if you guys don't stop me. So,
okay. Yeah, just roll with it.
Yeah, okay.
We're in it.
Okay. So I had a Dyna. I bought it with a Springer front end. It was pink with like leaf on it and had like a little Springer seat on it. I'm like, bought it for like $3,000, which like now I wish I'd kept and turned into a stunt bike because that's really what I want to kind of start playing around with. But I painted it, threw some Indian Larry stuff on it, and really I met Bobby Seeger with Indian Larry kind of through political stuff online because he and I were like shooting memes back and forth to each other, talking, here we are, we're about to cross that bridge.
Well,
talking
sure
about Trump.
We can meme up too later on. I'll go ahead and follow you up.
So, well, it's a date. We'll do it. But then Bobby was the first person in the motorcycle industry that was kind of like in the scene that I met. Mm-hmm. And then Bobby started introducing me to different people. And then my dad passed away. And this is like a pivotal point in my motorcycle story. In 2021, my dad passed away from cancer.
Okay.
And I was planning on moving up to Montana, and I was just going to be like, screw all this. I'm gonna just get out.
Where were you living at that time?
So I've been in like West Texas
Okay.
for like 15 years.
Okay.
And I first ended up there working for a church. I have a degree in youth ministry. So that's kind of how I ended up in West Texas. Then I got sucked into oil and gas.
Like everybody does in West Texas.
Everybody does in West Texas.
Yeah.
Like it's, everybody ends up in oil and gas. And that's another conversation.
Is Landman legit?
It's pretty good.
Is it?
It's,
Okay.
yeah, it's,
I got into that one. I don't think T has yet.
Yeah,
That's a
there's-
pretty good show.
it's decent. Like it's, I'll
Okay.
say it's pretty good. So my pops passed away, but the last thing that I told him I was going to do with my life, so there were a bunch of the guys running out at Chuckwalla, and it was like around the same time. And I'm like, Dad, look at this. These guys are on a track on their Harleys, and oh man, that's so cool. And because I had a 21 lowrider, I had a 17 Dyna Lowrider S.
Okay.
And that
Cool
was
bike.
the first more performance-oriented bike that I had ever been on. Mm-hmm. And I was in Arkansas, and my dad passed away in Arkansas. My family all lives out there.
Okay.
But like Highway 7, you got the Pig Trail. I started ripping around out there, and I'm like, I pass a lot of people when I'm on my bike. I'm like, I feel like I'm going pretty fast in these corners. And so that Dyna kind of started, it gave me a platform where I could kind of start pushing a little bit more.
Well, just thinking about speed versus cruising.
Yeah, exactly. And I really just I love to go fast through a corner. Mm-hmm. I love to go fast in corners. I mean, it's just.
So you guys are you in Eureka, Rogers area?
So my family is
at?
in like the central. It's like, they're in between Fort Smith and Little Rock.
Gotcha.
But I mean,
dude,
I can get up to Eureka on a bike in like an hour and 10 minutes or something. Like, I love that area up there. It's so beautiful. It's so fun.
Dude, so you ran that, the Dragon's Tail they got up there. What do they call it? Dude,
Is it the pigtail? Isn't it pigtail?
Well, you got that one.
What's the one
There was one that I ran up there, and I'm talking those switchbacks where you're looking back this way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more aggressive than the Dragon's Tail in Carolina.
Yeah.
Let me
it's
look
crazy.
it up, but you can keep going. But man, you said Arkansas, and you started
Northwest
talking,
Arkansas has incredible riders.
Yes. Probably some of the best.
Talamina Highway's over there on the west side of the state. Incredible. So the last thing I was talking to my dad about that I was going to do with my life is I was showing him, and I think
Do you remember who you were watching?
Bulletproof Welder.
Okay.
Trevor.
Yeah.
So he was one of the guys that like, I don't think I'd even met him in person. No, I hadn't met him in person yet, but obviously love his bike. Everybody loves his bike. It's the gold, you know, one of the coolest. It's
The most famous Dyna
it's
ever.
like the most famous Dyna ever. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So Trevor's a good buddy of mine. But we were talking, and so I'm following him. And then Frank, Hard Rider, Frank. So that used to be up in Brooklyn. So I met Bobby first, and then I started going to like the Indian Larry block parties, and I met a lot of those guys that were up there. So Frank was out there on the track also. So he was another one that I saw, and I'm just like, Dad, check this out. Like, man, guys on Harleys on the track. And my dad was not impressed.
Really?
Like, my dad was just like, cool, son. Guys are taking school buses and trying to go fast. Nice. But I was like, I'm gonna do that, Dad. And he looked at me, and my dad was a smart ass. I love him, I miss him, but like super sarcastic, like really good guy. Like I love my dad, but he looks at me and goes, thumbs up. Okay, Chuck. And I'm like, well, screw you, man. I'm like, I'm actually gonna do it now. And so it was, so that was March of 21. I turned 36 that year. 36? I don't know. I'm not very good at arithmetic, so we'll just one of those ages.
36 is good.
But I gave myself, I'd never bought a brand new bike, and I walked into my local dealership, and I was looking at the big twin stuff that was coming up with, well, actually, no, I'm sorry. I was going to take my Dyna and turn that into the race bike because I lost the lifters in the 110, imagine that. And so it was, my bottom end was over at Dark Horse, and I was waiting on that to come back, and I was going to build this crazy Dyna race bike. Well, in the meantime, Connor was at FXDB. So I was watching the Texas track stuff, and I was watching Connor, and I started messaging him, and then I started messaging some other guys in the local Texas scene, and then I picked up a brand new 21 Lowrider S. A week after I bought it, I rode it to Sturgis, and then I did a track day like the weekend after that on a brand new, completely stock. Like it literally just had my Sturgis miles on it, and then I threw it on the track at Crescent there in Texas, and I met like Cody Melton, Dylan Wall, Steve Chamberlain, which I was like, Steve Chamberlain's here at the track? Wow. Like, Steve's a good buddy of mine now. Yeah. But I met all these super cool dudes. Oscar with TTI. So Oscar's been like a sponsor of mine. I met Chico with Lindell. So I met the Lindell family. And so I met all those guys, did the track day. Then I go out to Brooklyn the next weekend because it's the stinking Indian Larry block party. And I'd been the year before, so I'm going again. And Frank, Hard Rider Frank, he's out there hanging out with him. And then I turn and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Brendan Murphy. It's 113%. And so I start talking to him. And then Brendan's like hearing my story, hearing that I just did a track day. And he goes, Charlie, don't be a pussy. Go out to Chuckwall and get your license. Go do it next weekend. Do it. Don't be a pussy. And I was just like, okay, all right, man, I'm going to do it. So Thursday, like 4 days later, I borrow a trailer, throw my bike on it, drive straight through the night. I roll into Chuckwall because I had work on Thursday. I roll into Chuckwall at 6 a.m. I think I slept an hour. It's like a 16-hour drive. So I just drive out, roll in to do my new racer school license thing. And I mean, I'm cooked, but I'm just so stoked about being there. And Chuckwalla was where I saw the racing stuff start. And so I had this like emotional connection between my dad and that track. And I still do. Like, it's really weird, but I do have this like connection with my dad. I think just because that was like the track that guys were on when I was showing him the Harley racing. But so then went out, and I thought that the deal was if you go down, like you're done, like you don't get your license,
right?
And I'm going through the classes, I'm doing the stuff, and I'm like, bum, 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 bum. And I've, only been on a track one time. It was Crescent like 2 weekends before. And I roll out. I'm meeting Brandon Quaid and Ravi and Clay Braun. And I think Lenny might have been out there for that one. Eric Stahl was there. Frankie Garcia. I know there's other guys. Josh. Oh gosh,
I know his name.
I
know who you're talking about.
Nichols, Josh Nichols,
yeah.
Devin, Doug. That was out of Reno. So Devin, Doug, and I, we all got our license the same weekend.
Okay,
like, it was super cool.
Doug on the
road, the red road glide. I'm going to say the older guy, but like
yeah, you remember Doug?
Yeah, super cool dude.
Yeah.
So, but we were all out there getting our licenses, and I blew through Crash Corner and just went wide, stood the bike up, blew through it, looked over my shoulder, got back on track, and I thought that was considered crashing. I kept the bike up. Believe it or not, despite what people have seen.
That's the blind kind of off camper.
Yeah. So
okay.
They kicked me.
And you went off into the dirt.
I cut through 10.
Yeah.
And then was able to
get onto the straightaway.
Get back onto the straight. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was able to pull that off, but I thought that I was done. I was like so just distraught because I thought that me going off the track was considered crashing, but I kept the bike up. So I'm like finishing up my laps, and then they call us in. I'm just like, man. I walked up to Stu, that's who I got my license with. I'm like, so that's it? I'm like probably close to crying. I'm not even joking because I had so much just emotional investment in
like driving there.
Just I was exhausted.
Yeah.
This stuff with my dad, because I felt like this was like my new mission in life was to like show my dad that I was going to race Harleys. I don't know why. Yeah. I wish I was like, you know what, Dad? I'm going to become a billionaire. And then he would have been like, okay, Chuck. And I would not be sitting here. I would be a billionaire. I'd be like little
soaking it up with your soulmate in the hot tub.
Yeah.
Do you get another shot if you go down?
I think you got to go back another weekend.
So you can't.
So if you go down,
done.
you're done. If I had gone down, I would have been done. But Stu was like, "Did you crash?" I'm like, "I went off the track." He's like, "Did you go down?" I'm like. He's kind of like, "Are you stupid? Do you know what crashing is?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't crash." He's like, "Well, then you're okay. Get back in class." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so then eventually I got to the point where I'm like, "Dude, I'm so tired. I don't even think I can do the last session." He's like, "I've watched you. You're good. You're picking it up. You're doing great. You have to do the mock race at the end." And Pointy Pitchfork, Zach, my buddy. I love Zach. He's got the opossum, he's got all the critters, and he's one of my super good friends. Like when I go to SoCal, I've crashed their guest room. His and Rachel's guest room used to be Chuck's room. But he was like, just finish the mock race. Don't care about anything, just finish it. Because if you go down to the mock race, same deal. Like if you crash in the race, like you're done. And I got last place in the mock race. I didn't even care. I was just
cruising along.
I just cruised. Yeah. I was just looking through corners and watching people pass me. Probably got lapped like 2-3 times, and got my license. It's just go, and then so that's the start to like me getting licensed.
Okay.
So. Yeah.
Well, and that's interesting just because I don't know if anybody really knows yet, but Jay here is going to start racing BRL this year.
Okay.
So, I'm going to go back. I'm going to get back to racing, and we're going to build a second bike, and he's going to run it. So he's just going to start that process now.
That's why I was kind of asking that question. That question on going down. On a
You're done for that weekend.
Yes.
And then you got to wait till there's another new rider school or whatever and go sign up and like start that day again.
Exactly.
Like it's not like you're done for life.
Right.
Yeah,
it's just like you're done for that session. You're off the track.
Yeah, that is kind of a little bit of pressure. When you think about, like you said, you drove, both of you guys did it, right? And then if something goes south, it's like, man, now I gotta go back,
and I think
everything, and then hit it again.
I don't know how it was for you, but I mean, like you're kind of stepping into like a new world.
Oh yeah. I had no idea.
And it's like, it definitely would ding your confidence to do that. And then would you go back a second time? Like, you know what I mean? Like if you really came down to it, like it would be harder to go that second time, even though you kind of know the process, but it would just be knowing that like the first time you went out there and you ended up in the dirt, like, and do you want to go through that again? Like that, just that fear of.
Yeah. Cause I mean, crashing sucks.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I mean, I've had some doozies. And man, it's, you know, I mean, my first crash, and we can talk about that later. That's a fun one.
I got a question on that one, man.
We'll get there later, but that, fortunately for me, I mean, I was like a year and a half, I think, or at least like a year of track time before I actually crashed.
Okay.
And I was able to just kind of and get back up. But like if that had happened, it was in my head when I blew through Crash Corner and when I went in the dirt. But I mean, I had good instruction, and they're like, if you touch your front brakes in the dirt, you will go down. You need to coast, and you need to control your rear brake, and you need to act like you're on a dirt bike, which I didn't have a lot of experience with, but I figured it out and was able to just kind of, keep the bike up nice and easy, no like aggressive inputs. And like, that's the stuff that goes through my head. I'm ADHD, and it's just like, and I will just.
We haven't noticed.
Have you met Jordan by chance?
Yeah, great guy. Yeah.
Come on, Jordy.
So yeah, it's cool to just kind of hear your kind of progression through.
Yeah.
You know, getting a bike, and I mean, and your bike wasn't really track ready.
No, it was definitely not track ready. I did throw a 13.5.
Rear shock.
I threw a 13.5.
RWD?
RWD. Yeah, okay. I threw an RWD on there, and then they did make a custom. I ended up getting the exact same shock that Ravi had, because I think Ravi was the first one that they did like a 15-inch race shock for. And then Eric Stahl got me hooked up with RWD so that I could get that extended shock. And then that's where I went into Utah. So my first race was at the end of 21. And that was Brandon Quaid being like, dude, come out to Sonoma. Come race out here with us, man.
So Sonoma was your first race?
Well, technically.
Or at least with the BRL?
With BRL, yeah. So that weekend that I got my license, I was out there. All the guys were like, dude, you're doing pretty good. Just come race with us. And I'm like.
At Chuckwalla.
At Chuckwalla. Yeah. So that was where like Tony, Eric, Frankie, Rav, all those guys that were there were like, yeah, dude, just do it. Like, just come run with us. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I went from, it was my second track day to then I'm like a few hours later lining up with these guys.
Yeah.
Johnny Boy was out there. Johnny Trulio, like he's another good buddy of mine. But yeah, so my first BRL race was Sonoma, and that was Dylan Wall and I. We thinking, did we go together to that one? Am I thinking that? I think that we rode together on that. I can't even remember anymore. Yeah.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Was Dylan on the sports?
He's on the, yeah.
And is his the one that blew up that weekend? Or was that somebody else? Remember that?
Yes. Yes. He rebuilt the motor overnight.
Yeah. I remember that.
In the garage. Yeah. So Dylan and I went together, and it was, I've been preaching that Dylan was going to be like, he's like the chosen one,
Really?
Like from the very beginning, because he was at that first track day that I was at, and he and I became pretty good friends. We did the Sonoma trip together, and then just the dedication and heart that guy has to being on the track. I mean, he rebuilt a motor overnight. I've watched him just pull motors apart in parking lots. Like that was up when we were both doing Super Hooligan in Moto America, and his Pan America motor, he had a lot of issues with that motor, but I think he had a warped head or something happened, and he's in the parking lot with no awning, and he just pulls this thing apart and tries to rebuild it, tried to go back out, and it's just like, if it's possible, he's going to do it.
He's going to make it happen.
He's going to make it happen.
Yeah.
He's just one of those guys. He is like the epitome of never say die. And
Yeah.
but yeah, so that
I mean,
was
you got to love those guys, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, just
the heart to
Yeah.
just keep pushing like that when everything is against you and
Yeah.
you're just like, no. Well, yeah, seriously. I mean,
This guy.
yeah. You know, I think it was like 3 weeks ago I'm talking to you and I'm like, hey man, like, you know, I know you had that wreck, like how you doing? Like, when was that? You're like, oh, it was like a year ago. I'm like, oh, how's your recovery? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said you're still dealing with stuff.
I am. Yeah, I'm nowhere near 100%.
And now you're talking about, oh, and by the way, I've got a race team again and I'm going to be one of the pilots.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
so-
I've been like all this year trying to decide whether I'm going to go back racing in 25 or not.
Yeah.
And I've gone back and forth. I've been ready to hang it up. And I've gone so far as like, screw it, I'm going to build 4 bikes and put a whole team together, and like, and everything in between, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but yeah, just about, I don't know, how long ago was it, man? Like 2-3 weeks ago, me and Jay
Yeah.
just sat down and kind of,
I've been bugging him for a minute.
he's
There you
been
go.
he's
Yeah.
been
I've
I've
wanting
been
to
kind
do
of
it.
chiseling, just
And
chiseling.
he kind of pushed me over the edge when he said he wants to go racing, and he really kind of just laid it out like he it's a bucket list thing for him.
Yeah.
And he's going to do it with or without me, kind of thing. I'm like, all right, we're doing it then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't let him go do it without me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
for sure.
I would
totally
want
get
him there, man, because I mean we've been doing this for probably
I mean,
about
he's
almost
been
10 years. You know, with
Yeah.
He's
almost.
been, you know, all the time flat tracking, all the BRLing. He's been there
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
Wrenching on my bikes, helping me, just pitting, you know, do everything that goes along with it. So like, there's no way I was going to be like, yeah, I'm not going racing, go do it on your own. There's
Yeah.
just no way, right?
Yeah.
And
It'd be like empty if I was doing it by myself without this guy.
Yeah.
You know, just because that's almost like it's almost been kind of like our thing in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, and it wouldn't be any fun if I was by myself. I mean, could you do it? Sure, but man, having somebody that you've been tight with. I mean, I want experience with this guy. You know, even be on the track at the same time. I know we'd be in different classes, but there's times we can go out and practice together.
Yeah.
You know, I can just straight Marquez's backside, just try to get up right up behind
Find
him.
that draft,
yeah,
man.
and just follow his line, man. Right,
Yeah.
just for one time. But yeah, man, not getting any younger. So
Yeah.
it's almost like, hey, I need to like just go try this thing, man.
Yeah.
I've been, especially the road racing, the bagger stuff. I mean, man, we're always in the backside. It's like, okay, let me go try. I know it's going to be different.
well, and this dude, like,
You know, but-
you know, we've ridden a lot, and we'll go out and run the canyons and run the, you know, and he's got skills.
Yeah.
Like he can ride. Like I've seen it, and you know, I hope I think I'm pretty confident that it's going to, you know, translate to the racetrack.
Yeah.
It's different.
It's different.
It is
Absolutely.
different. It
It translates, but it is.
It's not
It's
the
different.
same.
That's why I'll be picking your guys' brains, like especially, you know, guys like you, him.
Yeah.
I know it's not going to be something that's going to be like out there. I know that.
There are
But-
very, very technical things. There's like this like core of like technicality of operating a motorcycle on the track that if you don't have those things, like you just can't. It's just never going to click.
So in light, like what were some of those things?
Man, so like
What would they be?
foot position on your pegs, like that's a huge one, which like it can be tiny little things. It's going to be a little different for everybody, but there's like certain, like the way that you turn your feet, and like that was a big one for me. And I can never remember the guy's name, but he's some like Italian or Spaniard that has all these YouTube videos, and he like races cars and he races bikes, but he does all these, like he did this like my top 25 lessons for my first year of racing motorcycles professionally. And before I did my first track day, I think Dylan might have been the one to tell me. It might have been Dylan that was like, hey, you should watch this. And I watched this YouTube video. I'd be driving down the road, not knowing my speed because my phone would be blocking my speedometer. And I'm just like watching this video, and he's going through like all these super technical things. I mean, one of the things that like, and this is probably not as big of a shock to people as it was to me, as much as it changed things for me. But when we raced at Utah, like what really clicked was like really looking through a corner and like, I call it having big eyes because it's so easy, especially ripping around on the road. You have to be a little bit more conscientious about what's here because there can be 2x4s and cats and potholes and like, but you still need to be eyes up. And like I said, I call it big eyes, but on the track, like,
it's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. Like you would not believe.
I mean, you see it in the professionals.
I'll say the GP boys, you can see them looking up and I mean,
they're almost looking at the next corner.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
while
they're
in one
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some of it is actually tricking your brain because like your body starts to figure out like, oh wow, I'm moving pretty fast. and if you are looking down, just the actual like neurological stimulation of all the visual sensation that fast, like then your brain is kind of overwhelmed and it gets overstimulated. Where like when you start to have eyes that are up, like somebody, I think it was on that video, that top 25. I'll track it down and I'll send it to you. But he showed the exact same footage where they blur out the top half of a dude on the track. And it's like from like first person perspective. And they show you running through these corners and on this straightaway. And so you're watching from like here down and it looks like you're going, like this dude's just doing like 175 miles per hour nonstop going through corners. And then they actually block off the bottom half of the screen and all you see is the top. And it looks like this Sunday cruise that's so smooth and all the corners are connected so evenly and everything's just nice and chill. And so it's like, as you learn to like look up, pick your target for where you're aiming. And then you have like a point where you're like, okay, I know I'm good. And then then your eyes go to the next target. And it's like, you've got your brake markers, you've got acceleration points where, you've got shift points where like, you're not thinking like on the street, you're just feeling everything, and it might be a car pulls out in front of you, you got a downshift or, whatever it is. But when you're on the track, like there's very specific and like, it's very oriented and it's like, it's methodical, I guess. And it's like, it's a science in a way of like, it's like here, there, this gear here, that gear over here. And it's just so much more to it.
Mm-hmm.
I found, I don't know if it was true for you, I found I struggled with like target fixation, like, say I was entering a corner and I knew I wanted to avoid, maybe a tar strip or a crack or a certain line. And I would go into the corner looking at it, like trying to avoid it and just run right over it.
Yeah, it's
such a weird thing that like your bike, like you literally go where your eyes are locked.
Yes. Like you will go where you look. And like,
and I struggled with that.
And you're losing seconds.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, when you
do that.
Oh yeah. It's seconds.
Because and seconds are huge.
Huge. Yeah. Right. Like this is,
everybody thinks, you only use 2 seconds. That's nothing. No, road racing, 2 seconds.
2 seconds is huge.
Yeah.
Like if you cut 2 seconds off of your lap time, like that's a huge progression. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, and eventually gets to the point like Moto America guys, I mean, they're like
tenths of seconds,
hundreds that they're like, oh man, I lost it. I lost, a half a tenth right there. Yeah.
It's like,
like that is an improvement
for them, but they're at that elite
level. At that level.
For us, seconds is still a lot.
Yeah.
And that can be just that. You go into a corner and you're like, oh, the preferred line, the fast line is here and I want to avoid this. And then you run it over and you're offline and now it's like 3 more corners before you can kind of get back into that groove.
Yeah.
It really throws off that flowiness.
Yes.
That like letting one corner flow into the next, and not fighting it.
Yeah. Have you run COTA?
No.
So COTA's my favorite track.
I want to.
COTA's so fun.
You ran COTA?
Oh, yeah.
Because he ran the whole Super Hooligan season.
Yeah, so in 23, I ran the whole season.
We got so much. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
No, I did. I mean, I knew you were in that because I know one of the questions I got.
Yeah.
That's so cool. You got Laguna, COTA. All right. Dude, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So at COTA, turn 1, and one of the fun things about when you actually, and you get onto these tracks, when you see them on TV, when you watch a video, you never really have the appreciation for elevation.
I agree.
And then you walk the track and you're like, running out of breath, like going up a hill, and you're like, I'm gonna run my bike up into this corner, like this.
Turn one of Coda.
Turn one of Coda is a monster if you
Straight.
don't know how to go into that thing.
I think even at the elite level, there's guys that struggle with turn one at Coda.
How many times has somebody gone blowing through one at Coda? I mean, lots of times.
Some big names have gone wide.
Yeah, like it's, you got to stay super wide on it and go deeper than you think. But then, like, I remember there's a time where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going deeper than I think. And then I'm like, oh no, I'm way deep. I'm like, oh, stand it back up. But like you go turn one and then turn two, dude, turn one to turn two. Like once you get through one, and then you're going into two.
Because I've never ridden it. Is two, you come back down the hill.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
so
two.
Like, so turn one and then, sorry about that, Jordan. But you're going down to the left as you go through one, and then it freaking kicks back to the right in two. And then, like you're talking about how you can mess up a whole section by missing a mark. And Coda, that S section,
S's.
like if you don't hit, I think you clip 3, if I'm remembering correctly, under the bridge. If you don't clip 3 correctly, which I like to run over the rumble to go and set myself up, but
How is that hit and rumble? I've always.
it's nothing.
No, it's not.
Yeah, like I mean, there's
Well, let me correct that. In my experience, it's nothing if you're
actually
like-
I need
like
to correct
straight up.
myself. So yeah, actually, go ahead.
if you're leaned over and hit the rumbles, it's a little unnerving. At least
Yeah.
it was in my experience.
Actually, I wrecked at Coda because I was on the rumbles just barely in like 7. It was 7 or 8. I can't remember now. Because I was
That's
gonna,
the end of the S's.
It's like
essentially.
you're kind of getting to the end of it
Yeah.
before you do over into 10. And I was about to make a pass on somebody. I was coming up on the inside, and I was on. I was like, oh, I think I could get him. And I'm like, no. And I started to. I gave it to him because I thought it was going to be a risky pass coming underneath him. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't realize it, but I was on the rumble, and like because I was leaned over on the rumble, just barely put the brakes in. And I lost the front.
Yeah.
And so
Just washed you
So,
out
yeah,
on that.
like-
when it's purposeful, like in a situation like 3, or say like a Daytona coming out
exactly.
out of the bus stop,
exactly.
then
Yeah.
it's not bad. It's actually quite fun.
It's really fun. Like
those-
Daytona coming out of the chicane, like front wheel. Like my first picture of me wheeling on the track was like I hit that bump and
little
my
baby wheelie.
little leg. I was like, oh, there it is, guys.
Oh, it
Jack
doesn't
Miller.
feel little at that speed.
yeah.
You feel like you feel like like a rock star.
Oh,
some of the
yeah.
big names doing it.
Oh yeah.
But
It's
but yeah, the rumble strips, I think
you have to respect them
for sure.
Like, but you can hold traction. But yeah, I mean, I
and
don't want
some
to
are
go.
different. They're not all the same either.
Oh, and I don't remember which track it was.
I mean,
Maybe it was Mid Ohio this year, and I didn't race this year. I was on the Roland Sands SDI race team. I was in the pits, so I worked the whole season with them. I learned so much about what a race program should look like. Like Robert Ward was the crew chief. Become one of my best friends, guys. Whether he wants to or not, I look at him as like my uncle. He gets all these like real hard life lesson phone calls from me. Like I just kind of recently went through like a breakup, and I think he was probably like, oh my gosh, Charlie's calling me again. But getting to watch Robert, and I mean, he's been in Moto America as a crew chief for like, I don't know, 15, 16, 18 years. Like he's led championship teams. Like I think he was Hayden Gillum, Bobby Fong. He's been, and we were with Bobby.
Because you were with.
Yeah. But getting to watch him and getting to watch a team operate at that level and to be able to just come in and be a part of that. I mean, we were just such a well-oiled machine.
What did you do by chance?
Whatever they needed me to. I did a lot of running tires around and warmers, and
How'd you even get that gig?
really it was through Hawk Mazada.
Oh, really?
Because Hawk,
Good dude, man. Good
I
dude.
love Hawk.
Oh, he's awesome.
Hawk has helped me a ton. Hawk, I knew I wasn't going to race because after 22 and 23, I was just the credit card debt that I had. I mean, I had to take a season off. I wanted to keep racing last season, but with the Super Hooligan class, so in 23, I got third overall in the air-cooled challenge. And so it was like a class within the class of Super Hooligan that if you were on an air-cooled Harley or an air-cooled Indian, or American-made, that there was a secondary class. I knew my bike could not keep up with Pan Americas and KTM Dukes and all these things. I still beat some dudes that were on water-cooled bikes, which I was really happy and proud of.
Yeah.
Because I had a lot more bike that I was throwing around. A pretty good motor on it, like 146 horsepower, 155 foot-pounds of torque. Like
That's decent.
Yeah.
not bad.
Yeah.
Like it was fun. But got third place overall, made every round. Fought really, really hard for every point that I got. And yeah, I had some wrecks. The worst wreck that I had in the 23 season was at the Ridge. And Brandon Quaid and I were just battling. Michael Smith was way ahead of us already, but it was like Brandon and me, like we were just back and forth. And then I just I made a pass on him, and then he made a pass on me, and then I think I got him back late braking into one. I don't think they actually call it one. It's like the chicane, and then one's the next corner, but whatever. And then something just clicked, and there were like 2 laps left, and I started to just I was doing a really good job of when you just you just
Feel it? Yeah.
Like you just get in this zone, and I just was hitting my marks, and I was really looking ahead through the corners, and I was just I felt so good. And I was pretty sure that I was starting to get a little gap on him. And then it was next lap, I think I'm coming around, and I hear bikes coming, and I'm like, or I thought a bike. I'm like, how is he catching me? I'm like, this is insane. Well, I was getting lapped by Jeremy McWilliams and Tyler O'Hara, and I didn't realize it, but they go just, well, I was just so kind of amped up that instead of just kind of keeping my race pace that I was doing, at first I thought I got passed by Brandon. So then I'm just I'm like, I'm not letting up. And I go, what? And I kind of hammer down, and I go deeper into 6. And then I caught up to Jeremy and Tyler. I mean, not caught up. I don't want to sound like I'm on their tail.
Chasing them down. Yeah.
But I took the corner basically the same speed that they did. I was a little wider than they were, but their bikes are also way more capable of flipping into a corner and turning than my Lowrider S, on these factory Indian FTRs. And I was on a knee, looking through 6, feeling pretty good. I'm like, oh man, I'm going a lot faster than I have been. Well, the problem is with going faster, there's more lean angle, and your suspension is compressed harder. And so I thought, it'd be pretty cool to see what riding on my primary would feel like. And I lost the rear tire because I just picked it up because I had the bike leaned over so far. And Brandon got to watch me just, and I tumbled for about 65 or 70 yards, and it was not, there's only a split second of it on camera where you can just see, it's when Jeremy and Tyler were coming through the other side of that. It's like a double apex. You just freaking take this little carousel through, and they're going through the corner, and you can just see this ball of me, and the whole back of the television screen is just a line of dust where you could see, and
motorcycles and legs flying.
And
I think I remember seeing that clip.
It was that one was brutal. But I came out the next day and I got points. I didn't push hard. I was going 3 seconds slower per lap, but I got
Than you
points.
were the day before.
Yeah.
So that no kidding in your head when you have something like that and go next day.
Oh yeah. It was Eric Stahl that was because everybody else was like, hey man, we got your bike back together, but if you don't want to do this, there's no shame in
taking the weekend off. Yeah.
And Eric Stahl was like, why'd you drive to Washington?
Really?
For points. And he's like, well, I think you got your
Go get
answer.
'em. Yeah.
It's get out there. And
Sometimes you need that dude to just like nudge you in the back a little.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, I mean,
That's cool.
It gets in, it's not fun to go from balling up like that to,
Yeah.
then just jumping back on the bike. But you see guys, I asked Josh Herron about it because he wrecked in qualifying, I think in turn 7 at the Ridge. And then he came in later that day, put it on the podium. And Josh Herron, super cool guy. Josh has
Really?
been so cool to me. Like, if I have questions about stuff, racing wise, at some point we're probably gonna go golf. He's getting a little
Really?
saucy at golf. I'm gonna take his money, but it's the only place I could. But
Yeah, right.
But I kind of pulled him aside and I was like, dude, how do you do it? Like, how did you end up balling? I mean, he had a pretty bad wreck in turn 7 at the Ridge, and then literally a few hours later, I think he got second in that race, and he's on the podium, and he's just looked at me just so matter of fact. He's like, "It's my job." And
Yeah, those guys just have.
I know, man.
I mean, just
Those guys are on another level.
yeah,
Like even Hawk, and he'll be the first to admit that he didn't have this long, crazy career.
Yeah, yeah.
He never. He told me straight up he didn't even consider it a career.
yeah,
But he has that thing that those guys have. Hawk's got that thing, whatever that is,
Yeah.
right, about him. And I don't know what it is. I don't know how you get it. I don't know if you just have it. I don't know, dude. But some of those dudes are just wired differently.
I speculate the times that I'm just able to just go, I'm it's probably childhood trauma or something.
Yeah.
You're just man, who cares? I don't know.
Just this-
I've seen worse. I don't know.
Just the no fear
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny though, because I was raised I was the only boy. My mom and dad wouldn't let me play football. And I was the late bloomer. I was a little guy, but I a lot of heart, because I had to work so hard for everything because I was the little guy and really kind of overprotective. And then I turned about 13, 14. And then I started climbing higher into things and jumping off things and flipping things and riding and just started snowboarding, which I was oh, I'm actually kind of crazy. But there were a lot of dudes that I was friends with all through elementary school, junior high, that they just it never even entered their brain, you might get hurt.
Yeah.
They'd be oh yeah, I can double backflip off the top of that tree and land in a pool 70 feet away. Yeah, of course I can. And they would do it. And
Yeah.
and I wasn't that kid.
Yeah.
I was scared of everything as a kid. And then I just kind of got older and it just woke me. I mean, testosterone, you go through puberty.
Yeah.
I probably had something to do with it, but yeah. And then I just kind of was oh, I kind of like doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah.
I don't know what it is about those pros though.
Yeah.
I me and Jay watch a lot of MotoGP. We're diehards.
Yeah.
And I see those dudes, tumble.
Oh yeah.
And if it's during qualifying, they're cartwheeling off the track. They before they even come to a complete stop, they're running
Yeah.
to go get their second bike and
Yeah.
get back out there. I'm just it's just doesn't faze them at all.
Isn't there a Marquez clip, that famous clip, where doesn't he come running in, jumps the wall?
Yeah.
And I think it was qualifying for something.
Yeah.
And that's
And then goes back out and sets the best lap.
yeah, and then runs a better lap time.
Yeah.
And,
I'm just I just don't know how those guys do
that's
it. I don't
Yeah.
get it. It was just a normal day at the office for those guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Which kind of comes back to what Herron said of
It's his job.
it's my job.
Sure.
I mean, it's literally how you provide for your family. I mean, it's how you pay your bills.
You go out there and perform, and
Yeah.
and that's the way you look at it. And there's zero thought of what could happen or what did happen or what almost just happened.
Yeah.
Or any of that. They just don't think about that stuff.
So I had a buddy, and he's done the racing stuff, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, don't you ever don't you get scared that like the edge of your tire's not going to hold, or you're braking too hard, or that something might happen like that. And like, I honestly never get that.
Really?
Yeah, like, and I'm not trying to be like, I'm like those pros. Like, I'm not saying that. I might just be dumb. I don't know. But I feel like, so I would practice way slow. Like when I would, like when you're out warm-up practice sessions on a race weekend, I was never in the front.
During practice?
Never, ever, ever. And
you weren't the guy that needed to be fastest in practice.
no,
like that was
no, like and part of it is, I mean, I had never been on a track twice until, I don't even remember the first, I guess, when I raced COTA, I think I had done a practice on it before. Yeah, I did 2 practices at COTA before I raced COTA. And so like, but normally,
the other times you're just trying to learn the track.
I'm learning a track in practice.
Yeah.
Like when they're like, "Oh, everybody get out there, time to walk the track." I'm like, "Oh, I better walk this track," like because I have
never been around it.
I've watched a YouTube video a few times.
Yeah.
And so like practice, I was always like, "Okay, let's see." And
and
then
there's so much to learn in those.
so much.
That's
And I
what
don't
you
think
guys-
you can learn it in one practice day.
Well, in COTA, for guys that went out and like did Super Hooligan, because a lot of the Super Hooligan guys are not as experienced. I mean, like bagger class, you've got pros. I mean, you've got
In King of the
Baggers, in
yeah.
Moto America.
Sure.
Yeah. You got like the Wymans and Corey West and
Dudes that
Jake
have
Lewis. I mean, guys
I've
that have
ridden
like
a lot of motorcycles around a lot of tracks.
yes, like most of them racing their whole lives.
Yes.
They've been around most. Actually, I doubt that there's any of these tracks that they haven't been on at some point.
Yeah.
But like Super Hooligan, if you think about COTA, and it's a 20 corner track, and you
deal.
go out there 3.4 miles,
It's a big track.
big track, and some of those dudes had never been on COTA, and you roll out there and. I mean, I don't think anybody even did the track walk. You're like, this is 3.4 miles. I can't make it all the way around this thing. It was like 108 degrees in Texas. And the dudes go out and it's like, I mean, you can't learn 20 corners in a track day.
No.
I mean, you just have to like pick a section and or like pick a few spots that you're like, okay, these are the key spots that I have to hit.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to learn COTA. I mean, I haven't learned COTA. I've been on it 3 times. It's
a world-class facility. I mean, that's why you see Moto.
it's amazing. Yeah.
And it's not world-class because it's an oval. You know what I mean? There's not 4 turns.
MotoGP isn't going over to Daytona.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
didn't they used to run it like Indy or something? Was that a thing, or am I making that up? Didn't somebody used to run motorcycle like?
I think that.
Am I making that
I
up?
don't think
No,
Indy, because Indy. I'm from
I feel
Indiana,
like you're.
so I don't.
I feel like that's vaguely.
I'm from Indiana.
Are you really? No
Get
way.
out of here. I was born in Indianapolis. Man, podcast number 3.
Yeah, here we go.
We're going to talk about being a Hoosier.
Who's here? What's up? It's crazy,
Yeah.
man.
I might be making that up, but yeah.
No, I feel like I mean, it's old,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
like 80s.
yeah. Like way old.
I feel like they ran a MotoGP at Indy.
See, I thought that, I mean, like way back. I mean, not like,
I'm talking
Yeah.
like late 80s, maybe early 90s. I could be wrong, but now
swear
that you
I'd
say
seen that,
I
but-
think I've seen it, but I could be way off. But anyways, they don't run Daytona.
yeah. Daytona's
I mean,
fun,
it's just
though.
it's fun.
Daytona's fun.
but I can't. I mean, you can't say that it's a super technical track.
No, it's one of the least.
I mean,
you're right,
there's
Tucker.
the infield.
You're right, Tucker. Holy cow. 08 to 15, supposedly. MotoGP.
To 15?
No,
That's why. That, I mean,
I don't believe that.
this is on the website.
Don't believe everything you read online.
I know. I know. The Goog, they always lying. That's right. They always lying to us.
It's that AI.
Yeah.
Oh, no. See, it's going to segue. We're going to end up talking.
We're not going to.
Hey, we're
We're
gonna
going to hold.
that.
We just got to.
Hold.
We're gonna save that for the second episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, Daytona was wild. Daytona's cool. It's
fun.
It was amazing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
They got Marquez. Marquez had the most victories there from 13 to 15.
Okay. Yeah. So
Marquez
Yeah.
polls.
Yep.
Youngest winner, Marquez. That's crazy.
yeah, I was gonna say I thought that I didn't realize it was that recent.
I didn't think it was that recent.
I
would
thought
not
it was
have-
like
I thought it was old.
Yeah.
Like late 80s, 90s.
yeah,
Dude, this is
like
crazy.
Nikki Hayden kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like not like
Huh.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
Fun fact for the day.
Daytona.
Daytona's different. You'll never see MotoGP there.
No.
I mean, they ran Laguna Seca for a while.
Yeah. Man, that would be fun to actually.
And I don't know why they
that.
don't anymore. I don't know. It's
don't
an
know.
old track.
It is an older track. I thought I had heard that there were complaints about bumps, and I
Yeah.
think that then you got the Laguna Seca repave, but even like turn 6. So it's like turn 6, you got turn 5, and then it's that first like kind of straightaway, and that's where they've got like the decibel rating hut, and then turn 6, like so 5 you go under the bridge, then turn 6 you're like coming up hard left, and there's this that if like you hit that wrong, I mean you're leaned over, you're going fast, like you're carrying quite a bit of speed, and then you're going uphill, and they did a repave.
Is 6, because I've never ridden Laguna either.
Yeah.
6 is the one that goes up the hill.
Yes. Yeah.
To the
so,
corkscrew.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So then you take that left, and then you go up the hill.
Yeah.
And then you're coming up blind into the corkscrew.
Yeah.
And so, but they did the repave, and then there's, I guess, like the turn 6 bump. It's still there. Like
Is it?
I haven't been on it since they did the repave.
Oh, okay.
But
It's still there.
But yeah.
From what you've heard.
So when they ran it this year, like I was talking to Dylan about it, some of the other Hooligan guys, and they're like, no, there's still a big old dip going through 6, and like unloads the suspension if you're not careful.
There's a similar bump in 10 at Coda, right?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or
Is it 10?
so 10 has one, and then gosh, I'm gonna have like, is it 16, 15, 16? Might be 17. Like there's like the big right-hander. So it's 15, 16, so probably 17 as you're coming through. Do you ever do this when you start talking about the track? Like I'm there.
Only the ones I've ridden.
Well, yeah.
And I haven't ridden Coda.
Yeah.
But I've studied it.
Yeah.
But I've never ridden.
Once you've been on a track, like, I mean, like I can run every track. Like I could shut my eyes and I can go run
Yeah.
all my tracks, and I can remember specific things like that. Like I don't always remember the numbers, like,
Yeah.
but I can
can
see all my
visualize it,
corners, and I
yeah.
know where I'm at. And
Do you do that prep work? Do you guys do that before a race?
Absolutely.
And are you like, even before, are you like going mental,
Absolutely.
visual?
Yes.
Because dude, I've seen the
Yes.
Moto GP boys like Martin.
Yeah.
He'll be doing all this, boom, boom, before he goes out.
Yeah.
Eyes closed, and you can see him visually hitting corners. He's doing it with his hands.
Yeah.
Dude.
Oh, dude, I in between like practice qualifying, I'll sit on my bike, like while it's on stands, and I'll
Really?
go through corners. Like I'll flop back and forth on the bike, and just try to. You have to mentally. Honestly, I think what I love about motorcycles and what I love about racing is that I am actually ADHD. I don't take medication for it. I'm 40 years old. I've learned a lot of tricks on just being a functioning adult despite having it, and like something that I'm doing just fine. Like I'm doing good. But when I'm on the track, it is literally the most calming thing to my brain, because I am forced. If I stop focusing, I might die. I mean, like it's like
It requires full attention.
you cannot drift off and be like, oh yeah, so the other day that pudding cup was delicious. Like I don't know. I love snack packs. Oh, man. But like you have to be honed in, and you've got to be like hitting your marks.
Yeah.
But then there's also that little bit of like awareness of like, okay, other bikes, where it's like but you can't be living thinking about bikes behind you, which, I mean, you have to be forward thinking, which I love all the analogies and crossovers. Like I'm really, I'm 40 years old. I really try to live an intentional, good life. And I decided to go sober It'll be 2 years on January 12th, which I've got lots of funny stories prior that we're not going to go into all those. But I just made a personal decision just to be sober, and I'm 40. I still exercise. I try to eat right. I'm trying to be more intentional about reading and just like personal development and all these things. And I feel like there's so much of like the specific like technical things we're talking about with the track. Like, okay, you have to be looking at a point so that you don't get distracted and target fixate over here. And it's like, I feel like in life, there's so much crossover to that it's like, if you just get wrapped up in the weeds over here, well, everything around you will pull you down and will distract you and get you off course.
Yeah.
And like you
and
have
slow
to
you down. Like you're losing, seconds on the racetrack.
Seconds on a racetrack.
And you might be losing days or weeks or months,
years. I mean,
years
who knows?
on life.
Yes.
By getting target fixation on something that you
Doesn't
should
matter.
be avoiding.
Yeah.
Don't be looking at it.
Exactly. Like it's the actual thing you should be avoiding. And it's like, just like you were saying, like that black tar strip that you were like, oh, I don't want to hit that. I don't want to hit that. I don't want to hit that. And then that's what you hit.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you have to be thinking about where you want to go, not where you don't want to go.
Yeah.
And like, and there's so many things like that with like even that I just really appreciate.
I do too. I love analogies.
Yeah, me too.
I love analogies. I love a good analogy.
Yep.
My favorite thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My wife hates it because I try and come up with an analogy for
I'm-
every situation. She's like, all right, let me hear it. And I'm like, okay, I got a good one for this.
Yeah, yeah. I love analogies. So yeah, I'm the same way, and I like to see. I love to. So because I used to do youth ministry, and I would like. Share.
I think that's fascinating too.
That's fascinating to a lot of people that knew me back probably.
Really?
Over the last.
I mean, it's just fascinating because. I don't know if I know anybody else who. And when I think of that, I think of the old man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think of someone that's 40 who looks like you as a youth minister.
Yeah. I went to a Bible college. It's called Emmaus Bible College in Dubuque, Iowa. So I spent about a decade of my life. I was about 16 years old, and I started kind of giving back and mentoring some like junior high kids.
Okay.
And I was in this little... it's like a youth group kind of thing, but it was like very intentional about self-development and like development as a group. And I was involved in leadership, and there were opportunities to work with these like weekend camps with like junior high. And then I went and got kind of tied into this youth camp up in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, which is Lake Geneva Youth Camp, the very original name that they came up with. I don't know how they got it, but some of the best summers of my life were spent at that camp. And like so much personal development for me as like a 18, 19, 20-year-old, because I think it was about those years. I'd go to school in Iowa, and then in the summer I'd end up going back to Lake Geneva, and I'd be a maintenance man, or I'd be cooking, or I'm a counselor, or who knows, I'm helping with the adventure team, and I'm belaying kids that are like doing the climbing wall.
Yeah.
Or, I never knew what I was going to get to do. It was a really good fit for my personality because I'm kind of a Renaissance man, like jack of all trades, master of none. And so I had all these kind of like pretty influential things in my life that then I ended up going to the Bible college, and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I just was like, somebody told me that I'd probably get to play a bunch of basketball. Like I'd get to start on the basketball team there. And I went to a junior college that was a pretty competitive junior college outside Chicago. And I did not get to play very much.
Okay.
And like, I love basketball. Like basketball was my love before.
That's everybody in Indiana, right?
Yeah.
Dude.
The movie Hoosiers. I mean, I grew up watching that. Larry Bird, like
one of the best, man.
One of the best.
I mean,
goodness. And then he ended up, coaching the Pacers.
Right.
The whole Reggie Miller. My favorite basketball player as a kid.
Hey, check this. So you brought up. You brought up Indiana basketball. So, okay, when they drafted Miller, who was coming out of Indiana? Do you remember that? IU.
Oh,
and it was one of the greats to come out
of IU.
Number 12.
I'm not even going to be able to. I'm not even going to. You're going to. No.
So, Steve Alford. I don't know if you remember him.
So
with Bobby Knight, 87.
So I was
He's young.
3.
He's younger than I am.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, I got 12 years on your voice,
Yeah.
man.
So I
got it. But so anyway, that year
Yeah.
that the Pacers drafted Miller, Alford came. They both came out at the same time.
Okay. Yeah.
And of course, Alford is an Indiana legend, white boy, 6'2", point guard for IU. Okay, slower. He could shoot the three.
Yeah.
All right. Now Miller, never saw him until the tournament, but he was shooting threes deep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Probably like old boy. He was a guy from Golden State.
Steph
Curry.
Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Now Curry, different, but Miller lights out. Now they draft Miller.
Yeah.
Indiana, dude, the state is
I bet
teed
they were
off, dude.
furious.
Because they passed up on Alford. I think Alford went to the Mavericks.
Okay.
And he played like 2-3 years and then went into coaching. I mean,
Yeah.
man, he
Well,
just
I remember
didn't have
the name,
skill
but
set.
yeah.
I mean, he's coached UCLA, Iowa.
Okay.
All those programs. They tried to get him back to IU at one point, but didn't work out. But anyway, of course, Miller, straight legend.
Oh, I mean,
Indiana.
one of the best come out of Indiana.
Yes.
I mean,
And
for the Pacers.
Just clutch player all the way around. With the Knicks.
Oh,
Going back and forth.
man, I
Dude,
was
love it.
right there. That I don't remember. I apologize. Like,
No, you're good, man.
Probably,
Yeah.
Another.
I love him and Spike Lee's little.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude,
They-
the two of
yeah.
them. I mean, it was amazing.
I love the trash talk.
It was
He's always choking.
Miller was all like that. Oh man, he would talk. And so here's what's funny though. So this was back in 2011. I think it's when the Spurs and Miami were playing for the championship. And so I was in San Antonio. I'm staying at the Hyatt Hotel or whatever. Well, so are Shaquille O'Neal.
Barkley.
Barkley. Yeah, I met Barkley. And Reggie Miller's there, but it's all the commentators for the
TNT
NBA.
or whatever.
Kenny Smith. Kenny Smith was there for TNT. Yeah,
Dude, that's awesome, dude.
And I see this 6'7" bald guy walking out of the hotel, and I look over, and I'm like, Reggie Miller. And the man talked so much trash his entire career.
Right.
I watched him. And I go, I'm your biggest fan. And this guy goes, all right. Because he was so used to hearing Reggie Miller.
He thought it was coming.
And he was just like, my man. Got the picture with him. And it was just like,
Dude, that is awesome.
it was so great. But yeah, that was a great moment. It was unfortunately, that was while I was still married. That was not a good moment. But yeah, meeting Reggie, that was good.
Oh, sweet, dude.
Yeah. Man.
How do we get from Bible
Yeah.
college to Reggie Miller?
Okay. Well, I think you said Miller.
It's ADHD. You're forgetting the
Yeah, I know,
ADHD.
man.
So
All right,
just,
All right, back where we're at.
Bible schools. That's just a trip for me.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's such a cool thing.
Yeah.
Have you done anything with that, like since you did that?
yeah. So I originally moved to Midland, Texas to work for a church.
Okay.
So I did that for
That's
3
what
years.
took you to Texas.
Yep.
Okay.
It just kind of sight unseen. Didn't know anything about Midland. Had I done a little research, I don't know that I still would have gone.
Yeah.
But it was obviously like part of my path and part of the journey that God had for me.
Yeah.
So since then, I was married when I was in Midland,
Okay.
and then went through. I was actually, I've had a lot of time to reflect with the driving over the last 5 days. I've driven 50 some hours or something, and still have to go another 15 to get back to Texas. But I've been reflecting a lot, and I just thought about how I went from 2019, my marriage ended. Which by the time it ended, I was like, thank goodness. Really tried to make it work. And there's just, I'm not going to go into details,
No.
but there's just a lot. There was a lot involved in that. That was really, really painful. And so then 2019 got divorced. And then, kind of after 7.5 years of marriage. And then 2020, then we have COVID. Then 2021, I lost my dad. And then the racing thing really, in some ways, kind of not. I don't want to say it saved me, but it just refocused everything that I feel like.
Do you think it came into your life at the right time?
Exactly when I needed it.
Yeah.
I
would have never worked before.
Wouldn't have worked any other time.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because, like we're saying, I should have told my dad I'm going to be a billionaire. Instead, it's I'm going to race Harleys. But just the way that all just connected, and it's. I really just feel like I've kind of found my place in the motorcycle community. And so to answer your question of like, okay, well, what have you done with it since then? I've very proactively tried to be involved in youth ministry and look for opportunities. And it's like door after door after door just keeps getting slammed. And so what I want to do in the motorcycle industry now is like, for one, like my sobriety. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with drinking. I think if you are someone that can
take it in moderation.
take it in moderation, totally fine. I could start drinking again, but I just feel like I'm a better version of myself when I'm just not.
Okay.
And like I could very easily go back to just like, oh, I'm gonna have a beer with dinner, and I wasn't an alcoholic. Like I had some moments. Don't get me wrong. Like
Sure.
But
you weren't waking up every morning looking for a drink.
I would never been diagnosed as an alcoholic, but I just made.
But if you're
that
going out
decision.
drinking tonight, some shit's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna have fun.
Yeah.
And I was very conscientious about like if I was normally the guy that like if I'm out with a group, it'd be like 11 o'clock, and I like look at everybody. I'm like, hey. Are we gonna?
The night's young.
Are we doing this?
Yeah.
Because if we're not, then I'm done for the night.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start drinking water. But if we're gonna do this, then let's do it.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, shot. Like I could go there. And so I'm a better version of me. I'm healthier.
Without it.
I feel good. I feel great. I mean, honestly, like I still, like I was saying, I still work out. But what I want to do in the motorcycle industry is like, I think there is a lot of hurt. I think there's a lot of substance abuse. And I think there are a lot of people that they're just looking for connection. And I'm looking for opportunities right now to just be a good influence and to just, and not like I'm some like guru or some like Buddha or like I'm just some guy, but I've invested a lot of my life to just really trying to better myself. And I've really, like when I was pretty young, and like something that I like to do is I read a proverb a day. There's 31 proverbs in the Bible, in the book of Proverbs, and like today is the third, so I'm read Proverbs 3. Read the whole chapter.
You've always done that?
No.
Oh, okay.
But some of
that's something new?
No, I used to do it.
Okay.
And some of the, what I would say were more stable times in my life. And there's just something to me about just, like, whether you're a Christian or if you don't believe in God, like, you could read the book of Proverbs and there's so much wisdom there. I mean, there's just, I mean, it's very instructional, and still in 2025.
Just like good life
Just good
skills,
life
habits,
skills, just
and
good.
all,
Yes, absolutely. And like, you can read that and you can better your life by applying some of those lessons and the things that are in the book of Proverbs. And so that's something that I'm trying to do again. And like, I've got a buddy back in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that I've known for a long time. He and I have gotten really drunk together back in the past, and he's recently decided to go sober. And he has, I think he would feel comfortable with me saying that he like has either recently become a Christian or rededicated his life to Christ.
Okay.
And he's just somebody that I just want to hang out with and just have those tough conversations. And like, I love raw, genuine, real people. And you find a lot of that in the motorcycle industry.
sure,
yeah.
And you find, and sometimes it's like,
You got to peel back the layers a little.
yeah.
Because
but you can
it's-
get it.
I think there's more of them out there than you know. And I found a lot of that through this podcast.
I'm sure.
You know, you have this idea or this vision of who this person is, you know, through social media or, you know, maybe running into them at rallies or races or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you start to sit down and have conversations and you're like, wow. I mean, it's happening right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think you're right. There's a lot of really good genuine people. Sometimes some of those people might be a little bit lost in life.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think they need to hear.
We all get there. I mean, I can absolutely say that through my divorce and some of the years of post-divorce, I was a little lost. I can say that. But I also know the things that I've done and I've changed that got me back on path.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm at a point in my life where I feel like I have the most to offer anyone that I've ever had. And I don't want to be selfish with that. And so any opportunity that I have, like even if like I don't know, like I just kind of recently, I'd moved out to the Dallas-Fort Worth area from Midland back in end of August, beginning of September. And I started dating a great gal, kind of got integrated into her family. And she's got 2 wonderful little kids. And, I was kind of like, I originally moved out there for what we were just talking about with like, kind of like, okay, I think this is kind of my mission, but then also the racing. Because I'm like, man, there's all these tracks out there and I want to make sure that I spend time I'm going to get a membership over at, it's like, I can't remember the name of it, but there's a track up in Decatur, Texas. It's like something not going to come to me. It's not happening. But
that's all right.
But yeah, and you've got Crescent, you've got G2. And so you've got all these tracks around there. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to just focus on racing. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to just really buckle down. And then I kind of started to see an opportunity to like, with her kids as like possibly having something where I'm like, well, man, or maybe this is going to keep progressing and I can start giving it to the next generation. Maybe these guys want to race, and that was something that I've never had as a 40-year-old, now single dude with no kids. And so I don't know if I lost sight of what my actual mission and drive was in moving out to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but I would love to be involved in seeing the next generation have the opportunity to get onto the track. And so I think I'm going to join a supermoto track down near Crescent.
Okay.
It's like $450. Dirt bikes are way cheaper than
sport bikes or Harleys.
Bikes or taking a Harley.
Harleys are expensive.
Harleys are
to track
not
them?
that I need to tell you or you, but to take a Harley and get it to where you can safely put it on the track, first off, that in itself is a huge financial burden.
Yeah.
But then to get it where it can be competitive on top of that, it's just insane.
Yeah, it's tough.
So that's where like the supermoto thing, you take a DRZ 400, pick one up for like, I don't know,
couple grand,
$3,500, go and get some 17-inch wheels. And I did one supermoto day. That was at SoCal Supermoto over in like Riverside, California. Carbon, do you know Carbon? Red-haired guy. He wrecked not too long ago. But he's one of the Chuckwalla guys.
Okay.
Super cool dude. Really good buddy of mine. But he's recovering from an accident. Dude, there's so many guys. Eddie. Yeah. Eddie. Oh my gosh. He was one of the first guys that I met. He was at that first track day with his camera. That was kind of what got him. That kind of eventually
got him where he's at.
That's what
now.
got his feet wet and got him started. And
he was running BRL, correct?
He was.
Eddie.
Well, Eddie's the photographer.
Yeah, he's
from Sly Fox.
Okay, okay. He was just out at Willow, correct?
I'm sure.
Wasn't he out there?
He was out.
Yeah, he was at Willow.
He was out there taking photos
with Sly Fox.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because he works for Sly Fox right now.
Yeah.
Okay, but I thought he was running.
I don't think he
never
ran.
No, he's never raced. So he wrecked
okay.
his Pan America on the highway the other day, which he does have. There's a GoFundMe for him.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
Maxine Machina on. I don't know if that's how you say it, but if anybody wants to donate to him, super. I think
super
good
guys at
FDR
FDR guys have organized that fundraiser for him.
Great guy.
Yeah,
but So, and then also, I'm just going to throw this in here since we're on the topic. Buddy of mine, Daryl, he's in the Texas chopper scene, but he's like Bad Chopper on Instagram, and he just had somebody pull out in front of him, and he T-boned a car, and he got pretty banged up.
Really?
But him and his wife, I think that he has a GoFundMe, and I'll probably put it back on my page or put it in my Instagram bio or something if anybody wants to. But he's
And they can find you on Instagram.
Or find me,
CC Harley Davidson.
CC Harley Davidson is my personal, if you want to watch the whole journey of all the nonsense of my life from the last I've had that page for I don't even know how long, 9, 10 years, 13, I don't know. And then I have a race page that's One Lap Racing, which I got that from Bobby Seeger with Indian Larry because he was always one lap. And I mean, the idea of that is you get one life, it's short, make the most of it, do something with it. Don't be a turd, actually give back, do good in this life. And so, that's my racing page. And so I don't even know how, so here we are.
Man, that's a lot of info.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
You still keep
You
going.
just spewed a whole bunch out
That
on the
was
table, man.
too much.
We need to get
That was Celsius. That was the last. I'm blaming the Celsius for that. The anxiety,
We can take a breath now. Take a breath and let's all relax.
You know who I would bring on? Bring him and the old boy from Go Fast Don't Die. That would be
Brady?
Brady.
I love Brady.
That might be a podcast. For
Oh my gosh.
Bring these two boys on, man. We go down so many different.
Oh man. Yeah. I used to talk to Brady pretty regularly, and then I think we've both just gotten so busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a super cool guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
In depth.
yes.
Deep.
Yes. I slept on the Go Fast Don't Die Airbnb floor the weekend of Mama Tried. That was the first time I met all of them.
Oh, okay.
And I just they just brought me in and just kind of treated me like family. And I just hung out with them the whole weekend and got to meet all his friends. And that was a great memory. That was 2022, I think, is when I went. But good memory.
Good people.
people.
Just going back, all the good people you meet through motorcycles.
Yeah.
Riding them, racing them.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. I mean, you could be at Indian Larry block party or at Coda, two opposite ends of the spectrum.
So completely different.
In just the V twin world.
Yeah.
Like the American, right?
Yeah.
Like Coda, King of the Baggers, Kyle Wyman, Factory Harley, Tyler O'Hara, and then Indian Larry block party.
Go from one into the next, man.
It's wild that you can, and a guy like you can go to both.
I just kind of
blend it in.
Just float from one to the other.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of cool?
Yeah. And honestly, it's one of my favorite things about myself.
Yeah.
I love people, and I just really try to be genuine and be real.
I was talking to Jay earlier about when we were in Milwaukee for the race.
Yeah.
And you needed tires.
Was it Milwaukee that?
And you didn't have tires, and you were going around the pits hey man, I need my tires are smoked. I don't have any tires.
Right. I was running used tires. Yeah.
And I don't know if we ended up giving you a set of used tires or not. I remember having the conversation, and I don't know where it went from there.
Yeah. Oh, so
because
dude, it was me. I forgot. Yeah.
Okay, because I had brought it up, and he's like, "Nah, that wasn't me."
I forgot about that because I went down in Milwaukee in that little
in the chicane on that backstretch.
No. In the
or in the horseshoe.
The horseshoe, because I was knee down. I mean, super controlled, but I think I was a little wide. I mean,
did you hit the grass?
No, I think I just hit rubble. I think that track was just so dirty,
Dude,
the track was terrible.
That was
just cracked up.
That was a terrible track.
It was not.
It was dangerous.
Yeah, it was not good.
So the only time I was saying how I never think about the what if, the only time that I've ever had oh man, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to really die was at Milwaukee on that last end before you come through the chicane and then you come around the little.
What would be turn 3 and 4 on the oval?
Yes. So
or
out
I think
on
it
the
was
oval.
1, 2, technically.
Yeah.
Because it would be running
backwards.
Yeah, but we were running backwards.
Yes.
So yeah.
So when I was going through that, and you're trying to look up.
I had a similar experience. Oh, go ahead. You tell me yours. I'll tell you mine.
So I learned that where that
there was that line.
brick wall.
Oh yeah, the
that
wall.
was that you try and I tried to get I think it was Shane Narbonne that was he's
on the inside.
on the inside.
Yeah.
So I was forcing myself to just really focus on that. I tried to get close to that because I saw Shane almost hit his helmet on it. I'm like, Shane's faster than me. He's got to know something. And so I was trying to get up tight on that.
Yeah.
But there were a few times where my little brain started going if I lose this, I'm like,
there's that
That's
wall.
a brick wall.
There's a wall on this
and
side.
I'm doing like 100 and I don't know, like 105, 110. I mean, I'm doing enough that I'm going to splat. And there probably could have been a little bit more air fence. I think we could all agree on that.
We could agree on that, yeah.
But yeah, so what was your...
So I did day one, because it was a double header. Day one, I finished second or third on the podium, second or third, I can't remember.
Yeah.
I was battling. Arnie was kind of on another level that weekend. And then I was battling with Clay, and I think it was Clay's first weekend on a bagger.
Yes, it was.
And I was battling with Clay.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I was battling with, I'm going to forget his name. He was on a turbo bike.
Was it Gunner?
No. It was a.
Oh, no.
It was a black and blue bike. What was his name?
Black and... Hold on.
He only raced like 2 or 3 races.
Yeah.
Anyways, it'll come to me.
Yeah.
Rusty?
Oh, yeah, it was Rusty.
Rusty.
Yeah, Black Charlotte.
Black Shark, yeah.
Yeah,
It was,
I love Rusty.
Yeah, Rusty.
Yeah.
So it was me and Clay and Rusty kind of all going like battling for like second, third, fourth. Saturday I finished, I'll call it third, I think it was.
Yeah.
Sunday comes around, I'm feeling good. I actually ended up trying a different set of tires. I tried some Pirellis on Sunday. Was feeling okay in practice. We go to the race time, same thing. I'm sitting in third. Rusty passes me. And I'm like, oh, I cannot finish off the podium.
Yeah.
I'm just digging.
Yeah,
right?
I get it.
And same thing, through the chicane on the backstretch, turned over in that, and I'm just pushing the limits. And I was dragging my exhaust in that corner really bad all weekend, right? And I knew it. I knew I could get down, and when I could feel it touch the pipe, I knew that was the limit, right?
Yeah.
And the next lap around, I'm like, oh, I cannot lose to him. He's gapping me. I got to go a little bit faster, and my pipe hits, and my bike just goes. Like it felt like I jumped 15 feet up towards that wall, and I was like in that moment, I just had flashes of smashing into that wall.
Oh, dude!
And my wife and my kids were sitting on that inside wall.
Oh yeah, because there were a lot of people actually
hanging on that wall.
Yeah,
and I just was like in that moment, I'm like, yeah, I'm good with fourth. I'm good with fourth here.
Yeah,
and it scared the shit out of me.
Oh yeah.
Because it wasn't one of those like you slide out and you're going to slide across the grass or the gravel or whatever.
No, I mean that was probably the
wall.
sketchiest of all the tracks I've ever been on.
Yeah,
that was,
and it scared me, and so I just like backed off, and I'm like, I'm good with the fourth, and I'll just drive home.
Yeah,
and I'm okay with that, and it was sketchy.
Yeah,
that's where he modified his exhaust after that.
I came home and
I bet.
we tucked that exhaust up a little closer. Yeah.
Well, Benny,
and I mean, and looking back at it, it was all like, I had the worst like technique and style. Like it's terrible, dude.
Yeah.
I watch myself and I'm like, well, I am so bad. You know what I mean? I could have been leaned over myself.
Oh yeah,
way more.
And that makes such a difference. And like
it really does. And I have these like flat track tendencies. Like I tried so hard.
Oh yeah.
For so many years to learn this flat track technique of like keeping my body vertical and moving the bike underneath me.
Yeah.
And I had the hardest. I think I'm still going to be struggling to shake those habits, going into a corner and trying to lean the bike down, rather than like hanging off of it. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, I could have avoided that. I think with better technique, but I mean, lesson learned. Yeah. Move on to the next round.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. See, and that's where, when I wrecked at the Ridge, and I wonder if you should ask the question, because I feel like we could transition it.
All right. So one of the, of course, most iconic track, I would say one of them on road racing, Laguna.
Yeah.
And I was going through your page last night, and so I've actually raced at Laguna. I know you boys don't know this, but
I don't know this.
Oh yeah. So this Christmas, I got my boy Gran Turismo 7.
Oh, gee.
Yeah. And so,
do you know how many thousands of people have told me, they're like, oh yeah, man, I know the corkscrew. I'm like, you've been to Laguna? And they're like, oh, Gran Turismo. And
yes. I had to,
okay.
I had to throw that in. But no kidding. So like I'm on this. I'm running some of these tracks on because GT7, man, dude, that thing is impressive and it sucked me in. But no kidding, that corkscrew, even on that game.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking, dude. You can't just go in there and just floor that thing. You've got to shift, feather, brake, gas, everything. And I know it's with the pedal set and a wheel, but I'm like, man, this thing is gnarly. And I mean, I know I'm on a video screen. I get it. Now I see. We've all seen the Iconics, man. You know, back MotoGP and with Hayden and all those boys, and then you've seen King of the Baggers come off that blind corner, come down that thing, and then last night I'm rolling through your page, and I see you, and I mean you come down that thing, and boom, you just wash out. I mean you straight tuck that thing, man, right, and you're just sliding through the rock and just straight like this. I'm like, man, how did he do this thing? But I guess for the setup on this, I want to know, minus video game, what? And I've never asked the question in real life. What is it like to come down that thing blind, over that hill blind into that corkscrew 3 stories?
Yeah. So.
And then of course, I guess do the ultimate wipeout, because that was
It's probably
nasty.
the most famous thing that I'm known for in my racing was my head spin and my form and
Dude,
my
the form
crash.
was beautiful. I mean, I'll
And
give you 10 on that.
So the irony, I have this love-hate relationship with Laguna Seca. I love that track. I mean, one of the most iconic tracks in racing history in the United States. Love it. So my first Moto America, so this is the preceding that event. It was 2022 when I did the full season of BRL and got 3rd overall in the big twin class. And then there was one last round of Moto America Super Hooligan. And I'm like, shoot, I'm going to do it. And Eric Stahl, Cam Brewer with RSD helped me just like ram me through all the confusion of getting registered for Super Hooligan. And I go out, I left my bike. How did I do this? So after Quaid was going back to Southern California, and I was like, well, dude, maybe I can just leave my bike with you because the next race I want to do is Laguna. And that's what, like, all the Quaid guys would go out there and like the whole Quaid racing team would be, and it was awesome. And so then I get to Laguna, my bike's already there, and I'm having to go through it and be like, oh man, okay, let's see how this thing's even, okay. And I get it all prepped, get through tech, doing this, doing that. The first lap of practice, going out onto Laguna, because someone had told me that he felt like all the Harley guys were like big pansies, and everybody's braking so early going into the corkscrew, and oh man, all these Harley guys, oh man, they don't have any balls at all, like come on. So the worst thing you could ever have going through your head when you're racing is any sort of prideful thought of proving to yourself that you're not a pansy.
Yeah. You got to have a little piece of humble pie.
You got to go in there with some humility.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not scared. So the first time I saw, I'm hitting the marks that I was told, I'd gotten passed by Tyler O'Hara, Corey West, and then Patricia Fernandez goes flying by me on the FTR, and I'm just like, ooh, just so excited. I'm like first pro race ever, racing in Moto America, and I come up that hill, and I'm like, I'm not a pansy. Blind as anything. You just open your eyes, and you're like, oh, that's gravel. And I'm sure that I went faster into that corner later that day. But for my first time going through, I was going way too fast. That was coming right in. And I tried to make the corner, and I got a little too much brake, and I tucked the front. That was my first.
So you didn't even get to the carousel.
Oh no, that was
that wasn't coming down it.
That was the season before. So that was my first time.
So you've been down in that corner.
I've been down in that portion of Laguna Seca twice. So then next year I'm back, and this is when I'm running the full season as Super Hooligan. I'm much, and I did get back out on the track that day, and I qualified. I made qualifying.
Oh, wow.
I got my hour and a half later. I had my bike together, went out, and I made qualifying.
After that one?
Yeah. That one wasn't too bad.
That was the first one.
Yeah, that was my first crash ever. Yeah, so things started off really well with Laguna Seca. I ended up doing decently. Like, I mean, yeah, I made qualified, beat some people, and yeah, so that went well. So then next season, 2023, is when I did the whole season, and then I'm back at Laguna Seca. I promise you, that first time I went through the corkscrew, it was kind of like in the back of my mind, and took it a little easier, got through it. And then I started running some decent lap times. Like, I ended up, I missed qualifying at Laguna Seca. I think it was like 1.3 seconds or something like that. And so then, but they had this like B main. And so, because it was such a huge class at Laguna Seca, Super Hooligan that year. And so they've got the B main, and most of the air-cooled Harleys are in the B main. I think Josh Nichols, Brandon Quaid, Joker. Joker was at all those first things also. I love Joker, but yeah.
Yeah.
So they...
Was Hawk in there?
Hawk was in there. So that's a season that he ran for Roland Sands
on that
Chief.
Yeah.
Yes. And so Hawk won every race.
Yeah.
Like he
smoked
he swept
everybody.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Hawk was like,
He was almost pretty competitive with
he was competitive with a lot of the water cooled guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Rennie, the year before that, was on that bike. Rennie Skaysbrook.
Yes.
And Rennie was like way like,
Yeah.
but the FTRs and any of those water cooled bikes also weren't as progressed as they were when Hawk ran. So there's like, so that Chief was the same bike pretty much season after season.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but yeah, so I B main, and I was not pole position. Gil Condis, I think, is his last name, or I am Condit. He is Condis. That gets very confusing for announcers.
He was at BRL at Willow.
He was on the white FTR.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Remember him? He was the dude with the puppy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like an OG stunt rider.
Yeah.
Like he's like he's kind of like, I think he's kind of famous in like the stunt world. Like
Really?
like back in like sport bike.
Okay.
Like he had like a pretty good following from doing that.
Yeah.
Danny Ruthless, like he and Danny are super good buddies. Which
Okay.
like Danny's a great guy. Danny's done really cool stuff in Moto America.
Yeah.
For being like a privateer like that,
Yeah.
and like really cool stuff. So Gil ended up missing, making it out before like you've got like 60 seconds. They open the hot track, or it's like pit opens up and then you can go out, and you have 60 seconds that if you are not on track and back in to the grid, then they hold you and they make you wait to go out, and then they grid you at the back. So he was like a tenth of a second faster than me, so he should have been pole. So I ended up, I think they put me in pole or second. I don't remember how it worked out. I might have still had my second spot. I had this awesome launch. And Michael Smith, who Michael and I have battled really hard. Like that season, Michael Smith and I had some pretty good battles too.
Really?
And he's a ripper. He's a great dude. So I get the whole shot. Like, probably the best start I've ever had. I think Michael might have been the one that told me. He's like, dude, what's your torque numbers? I'm like, 155 foot-pounds. He's like, why would you ever launch in first gear? He's like, put it in second. I'm like, oh. And you just freaking rev it up just like you would. And like, bike has so much torque, just pulls out. And I had this great start. I'm not doing wheelies. I'm not fighting a wheelie that way. Like, it was a much better start for me. And I just go zipping into one, and then I'm like, I'm in first. Oh my gosh. Oh, and I do like 2 laps, 3 laps, and Michael almost gets through everybody on the whole shot. And then it's not too long before, if you go back and watch that B main, he's on me. And I was doing a pretty good job, But I was not doing what you're supposed to do and just thinking about your race and hitting your marks and thinking about what's in front of you. And I kind of had this like, oh, I know he's close. I don't know how close, but there's somebody there. And I was thinking about things behind me instead of focusing forward.
Yeah.
It's like the life analogy of that is like something that I try to focus on, honestly, like on a pretty regular basis, is what I learned through racing like that. So I go through the corkscrew, zip through it.
Can you explain what that's like?
Going through the corkscrew.
Before you roll.
So like you were saying, like you're coming up, you come through turn 6, then you go up and you clip the curbing the curbing is kind of where you're going to start, probably thinking about slowing down and braking. Some guys start after that. It's probably the most like visually stimulating corner or like track experience other than the first time you come out on Daytona. And when the first, and you like have this bank, but like as far as just like visual input of like, holy crap. Like, and I target fit like that first crash, I looked at the gravel. I did not, like, I'm sure if I went back and watched that video, my head is not cranked through that corner going, okay, well, that's where I want to go. I went, and I was just looking ahead. And so second time there where I successfully went through the corkscrew every time, one time it was a little narrow. I kind of rolled in on the curbing, but yeah. Like it's one of those where like, as you come over that blind hill, I mean, as soon as you can, you start finding your mark to the left. And that's the only way you can keep from ending up in, like you have to just start with your eyes and just get through that corner. And then then the bike follows you. But it is visually, it's like, I don't know if I'd say it's terrifying. The first time was really terrifying, when I didn't like do it the right way and I crashed. That was also like one of those moments where I was like, I just, came all the way from Texas, and the first lap of my first pro race in Moto America, or in practice, and I couldn't have the maturity to respect
the race course.
The race course. I mean, especially the corkscrew.
Yeah.
And actually, I have a tattoo of a shark, and he's got a corkscrew stabbing him in the belly.
Really?
It's like a traditional style tattoo, and it was to remind me of like that event and the good and the bad that I've had at Laguna Seca, and it'll bite you. And I was in California, so it's a great white. So there were like a lot of
little analogy, right?
But yeah, I got bit by the corkscrew. But yeah, like it is visually one of the like craziest things that you'll experience, and like you feel like your stomach stays up there because it's just like there's lots of pictures of, and it's like if you just go through photos. Like I had some really cool photos where I'm like knee down coming out of the corkscrew. And there are also pictures of me where it's like there's this spot where you are straight up and down as you transition from doing the left-hander to then you flop that bike back over and you're just straight up and down. And if you look at the pictures of you when you're straight up and down in the corkscrew, you look like the lamest motorcycle rider that anybody's ever seen. And like, you just look so goofy, but like you literally take your bike from full lean angle left to straight up and down, full lean angle right, and you're back on your knee. And on my bike probably at that time still weighed 630, 640 pounds, something like that. Like, I mean, you're, the corkscrew has this like special place in my heart. So,
thanks for describing that. I was just always kind of wonder, what these guys are seeing, when they're coming up over that and into it.
Yeah, that first time. I mean, I wish I had commentary.
Eyes wide open.
I bet that I was just, like moon eyes. They're like, you probably could have slapped that sticker onto my visor and then picked up the visor, and it wouldn't have looked any different. Right. Because I bet I was just coming in and just, that was probably as far as wrecks I've had, that's the one that was the most my fault. Like just immature, stupid. Like I've had other wrecks, but like it was more like variables where like I wasn't necessarily like just being.
Was that your first practice? Was that like you guys were talking, you do the warm up or the practice laps? Is that what that was? Like you're kind of getting a feel for the course?
Yeah,
first
that
time?
was my first practice lap.
Okay.
That was like
So
lap 1. I'd never seen it.
Huh,
And I
okay.
didn't make it out for the walk,
Oh, okay.
which, that's a track I
that is
really
critical.
wish I had done the walk.
Gotcha.
And, yeah. And I don't remember what had happened. I think it was because I didn't have my bike in my possession because I couldn't afford to take my bike back and forth. Like I paid Quaid like $200 or something to take it from wherever we had raced before. I don't remember what race that would have been. But when did we race at Milwaukee? Was that in September or was that
It was in
Yeah, yeah.
September that year.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. And I thought there was a race after that. Or was that the year we went back to Daytona?
We went back to
I think
Daytona.
it was Daytona.
Was there anything between Utah and Milwaukee? Because maybe it was after Utah. I think I sent my race bike back with Quaid to California
From Utah?
from Utah.
Okay.
I think that's what it was. I don't know. It was something.
Been a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But
Crazy. It's crazy stuff. So that, I mean, just kind of, we're getting long into the
Okay, yeah,
podcast
yeah.
here. To kind of like look into what you got coming up for 2025. You, as
Yeah.
of right now, you have no plans on racing, at least not from the conversations we've
Yeah.
had,
Yeah.
of an entire season or series this year. Maybe you'll do a couple of select races.
yeah, like as of right now, like I'm
What if someone called you and said, "Hey, I got a bike for you to ride. Would you ride it?"
absolutely no question.
So you're
Would not even blink.
you're a hired gun.
I would, like no question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anybody's listening, looking for a rider,
I'm ready to go.
Hey,
And
Tucker, Pan Americas are going for about, what, 5 to 6K on the auction?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see what you're stepping in, Owens.
Hey, you said you wanted a four-man team. What's up?
Well, what I want,
We can go-
my bank account.
I
can
know.
have it.
Yeah. I mean, and literally the only reason I didn't race last season is because 2 seasons as a privateer.
It's
and
tough, man.
and
kudos to you, man.
Yeah.
I have
So
the
hard.
benefit of having a business that can,
You can get a little creative.
I can, I write it. I mean, the business kind of funds a lot of it, and I
Yeah.
write it all off as
Yeah.
marketing.
I just ate.
It's hard as just a dude on your own. Like, and hats off to you, especially at the pro level,
It
running
was
Super
insane.
Hooligan.
And I had a lot of help. I mean, Quaid helped me a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Stahl helped me. Lindell Brakes helped me. TTI. Like they were 3-state Harley Davidson in Bossier City, Louisiana. They built my motor, dynoed my motor, threw parts at it that I needed.
Okay.
Revolution
Wow.
Performance helped me a ton. I mean, there were just all these different companies that were helping. But I mean, nobody was like, hey, here's, what do you spend in a weekend? I'm like, oh, at least $5,000. I mean, because like Moto America, I was like $5,000 a weekend.
Yeah.
And
That's what it
was,
costs to enter, right?
What's the entry fee?
Yeah.
entry fee is actually not that expensive, but it's just to compete at that level. Like,
What's not at like $500?
it was, what was that? I think it's $350 a race.
Yeah, I thought it
Because I've heard rumors. Because I've never raced a Moto America race.
Yeah.
And I've heard rumors that it was upwards of 15 to 2,000.
So I think if you're on a bagger,
It's a different.
I think it
story.
was different. But Super Hooligan, I think Super Hooligan was like $350.
Okay.
If I remember right. But their races, like, they don't, like Moto America isn't like, well, let's pick the most centralized tracks to help these poor guys.
No.
You're all over the country.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know how many miles and how many times I slept in my vehicle or I was like eating the leftover burger from like 2 days ago or, like whatever. But I did whatever I had to do to make the next round.
Yeah.
And to show up as best as I could and put out my best effort. And I mean, like, this is not a thing I'm proud of. I've still only been on a track 14 times. Most of my experience has been racing. Like, I just show up and I feel like I've done very well with as little track.
Sure.
And that's what's really frustrating me right now is that I'm not going to be running like Hawk and guys like that. But I have so much more that I'm capable of if I had seat time. And that I think I have a lot of I have the base that I need. And if I would just financially and logistically get the seat time, like I can do so much better than I've done. And so, yeah, it's kind of where it's at.
You're
But
still young.
I'm still young. I'm 40.
Yeah.
I feel really good. I mean, really, I feel really good at 40.
I mean, you look good. You look like you're in
Appreciate
good
it.
shape.
I
mean, you're
still
looking
get.
like you're ready to go race today.
I'm in pretty good race shape right now.
Good.
You know, like
I'm not. I'm working on getting there, but I'm not yet.
it takes time, and the thing about being 40 that I've learned, and this is why I quit drinking, is because not the only reason, but a variable. You gain so slow and you lose it so fast.
Yeah.
And when you're drinking, like, dude, if you go back to pictures of me from 2022, and that's when I was on the road working for Lindell, and I was doing the Bagger Racing League series, and I'm going to event after motorcycle event because I was a salesman,
Working. Yeah.
showing up, just shaking hands, kissing babies, you know, doing all the thing. And I was drinking a lot more, and I got fluffy, man. And there's a picture of me after my birthday because Laguna Seca for Moto America is like always my birthday weekend.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so that's always kind of fun. But there's a picture of me on the beach in my freaking Rusty Butcher shorts, shirt off, and I just look like a fluffy sack of potatoes. And I just look at that picture, and like that's a big motivation for me to just keep working out. It's like, I don't ever want to get back there.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much better I would have done racing then. You know, I mean, that's back when I was like 37, 38. And if I would have been in the shape that I'm in now. And so that's been a big thing for me with just changing a lot of personal lifestyle stuff.
Nice.
But, so 2025, I don't specifically have any race plans. I'd be really surprised because I think the first round of BRL is what, April?
Yeah.
So I would be surprised if I'm not on a bike for that first round in April.
Okay.
Because I've got time right now because I wasn't planning on racing because like I mentioned, I'd gotten into a relationship and I'm like, I'm going to turn these kids into racers. And, you know, I was like, yeah, I'm cool not racing anymore. And, you know, now I'm just kind of like, man, no, I'm like, this has been my jam. This has been my place. This is what I've been doing. And the SDI racing team, they hit me up they're like, hey, we just want you, like, can you do Daytona? You know, and so even like where last season I was full time with them, I made every round. I don't know what that's going to look like with them this season.
Okay.
You know, and I don't even know who their rider is yet. Like, because you know, huge congratulations to Bobby Fong. He got the Yamaha factory Yamaha seat. I mean, dude, Bobby is just an animal.
Is he?
Like his lines are wrong. Like he uses more lean angle than other pro riders because he sees where he's going to go and he just gets there
goes
first.
there.
And he's just super cool guy.
Just just thinks outside the box or outside the race line.
Like he's just like, he's going to beat you there.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, he is one of those guys like you were talking about. So, I guess I'll try. We probably need to wrap this up here, but what I'm doing now. So I've retired the Lowrider S race bike, and I've balled it up 5 times. I go back to Dr. John in Southern California. They're in Anaheim.
Straighten
the frame out for me. Guys like, I mean, he is the doctor. So, but a lot of new parts, a lot of money. I got a swing arm. Billet swing arm. I'm working with a company because they weren't anticipating somebody putting a super tall shock on. And so the way that the drive side arm is, my chain
is hitting
all up in there. Like there's not enough Delcron in the world to save that swing arm right now.
Yeah.
But he's hitting me up, asking me for measurements. He's showing me what he's doing in CAD. And he's like, okay, I need this measurement. We're going to do this, and this. So that's Black 3 Customs. I think they're actually out of Taiwan.
Okay.
I don't know. But I'm running their, like they gave me I got a really good deal from, it's like Bullet Works out of Miami, which I think they're a distributor for them. but I got a swing arm, struts, mirrors for a really good deal. It's a really nice swing arm. The guy loves King of the Baggers. He's like obsessed with all the racing stuff. But Black 3 Customs, that's who that is. So.
Okay.
But he's working with me
Nice.
because I thought I was going to have to go and sell it and find a new swing arm. And Speed Dealer makes a really nice swing arm. Like, I love Frank doing cool stuff. He's right there in like Joplin, Missouri. That is an option I could have gone with, and I didn't think about how high my shock is.
Yeah.
Because I love the high suspension. The bike just feels so light, and it just tips in, and I don't want to get rid of that just because it's on the street. But that build will be wrapped up hopefully before. Like, I want to debut at Daytona, so that's kind of That's the plan.
Coming up quick.
Quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be here soon. So, well, right on, dude. Well, hopefully we'll see you maybe out on the racetrack at some point this year.
Yeah.
And hopefully maybe full time in years to come.
Yeah, I would love to.
I would really love to see you fulfill that idea of, the ministry, the youth thing, and the next generation of racers. And to me, it seems as though that's your path.
I hope so, honestly.
It seems like that there's pieces of that like starting to form.
It's like just kind of been.
And one day it'll all just kind of come together.
Yeah.
And it'd be really cool to see.
Yeah.
I'll be watching and praying for that to happen.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah.
That would be awesome. Because, there's nothing. It's super special to see guys kind of find that thing that their purpose in life.
Yeah.
And for that thing to also be giving back and paying it forward and mentoring and helping others, like that's really kind of just a beautiful thing. So I would love to see that happen.
Yeah. So me too, man. Yeah.
And we have, another podcast or two already scheduled with you. We're going to go deep dive into conspiracies in episode 2. And maybe 3, we'll deep dive into Indiana basketball.
Alex Jones, I think for
let's
that
just get
one, we'll get
Alex on here.
Alex. And then Reggie Miller and Spike Lee, maybe we could get them out here for the Indiana basketball.
I'll make some calls.
Okay, cool.
T's big time, baby. He's big time.
Yeah.
No,
I love it.
No, man. Real quick before we end, just let people know again where they can find you and follow along.
Okay, so CC Harley Davidson, no dots, no slashes, no nothing.
And that's just the letter C.
So it's actually
your initials.
Charles Condit.
Yeah.
That's what I had in mind.
Yeah.
And then it's turned into Charlie Davidson, which is
That's a good one.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
But CC Harley Davidson on Instagram. Charles Condit, Condit. I work in the electrical industry now, so I'm probably going to legally throw a U in there just so I can be Charlie Conduit. But One Lap Racing is like the race page that has not gotten enough attention.
We'll try and get it out there a little more.
But so I need to just keep balancing those. But and not to sound like lame, but like my personal Instagram, like I really use it to keep in touch with a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
Like, all over the country, there's people, I got a bunch of chat groups in the motorcycle industry, but then I really try to just put like inspirational and like real raw stuff about my life. And I'm not trying to hide anything from anybody. Like, I'm pretty comfortable with who I am at this point. And I've had low times. I've had some really high points in my life, and I'm really proud of the person that I've become and the person that I'm becoming, the things that I'm doing.
Good.
And so I try to just share, just love like through my Instagram. And
there's no shame in that. There's no shame. Like, put that stuff out there. And what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Nobody listens to it.
Yeah, but
And just imagine like maybe one guy or one girl or somebody listens to it.
Absolutely.
And they hear what they needed to hear that day.
Yeah.
And it just...
Like, if I can impact one life over 15 years of having an Instagram and like being intentional about posting things, then it's worth it to me.
So be it.
So,
So keep doing it.
Yeah. But dude, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Like this.
Thanks for making this happen.
Such a whirlwind of events, and I'm so glad, ran up to Boise and just the crazy road trip, and but there's been.
I know you need to get back home. I
got a tattoo. I got to get my tattoo first.
Yeah.
And so like I kind of have like a yearly mantra, I guess, and in 2022 is really when I started that. And Paul with Lindell Brakes, he kept saying to me, Charlie, my boy, currency comes in many forms. And that has affected me so much because working in oil and gas, I've made good money in oil and gas. I've been miserable making good money. And then I've also made no money working in the motorcycle industry, but I was so happy and so full of joy and experiences and people. And this year, like I don't do resolutions because I think too many people write something down and then do it for a day and then never go anywhere with it. But I do try to be intentional and reflect and think about goals for 2025. And like this year is my year of just like intentional peace. Because everybody has stuff in their life. Everybody has things happen. And I think more recently I'm really learning to navigate some of the chaos of things that have happened in my life. And so like this intentional peace is that's my 2025.
Nice.
And so I just hope that I can take that and I can really dig into that and like find that with my relationship with Jesus. And then I'm able to go in as an overflow of what I'm finding, be able to share that with others. So yeah, that's it. That's what
We'll start 25th. This is our first podcast of 2025. We'll start it with that.
Yeah.
Right on, dude.
Thank you
so much.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.